In today's video, I review Jeff Nippard's day of eating to build muscle and to lose fat. And I'm really sorry, but I have to do this.
My name is Jeff.
And on that bombshell, roll the titles.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow in stone for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. As always, just a quick reminder that I'm now offering the SIBO organic acid stool test and consult via my website. So if you have any health or digestive problems, then consider taking these tests, as they will provide a lot of very detailed information upon which you can start making informed decisions and then start getting your health back on track. And on that bombshell, to the video.
Steph and I have been back here in Kelowna. We've been kicking off every morning with a morning walk. So I'll wake up, I'll usually weigh in, and then I'll drink some water, and then we'll walk to Tim Hortons where we get a coffee. There isn't anything really special about doing that walk fasted. It just helps kind of wake me up and get me ready for the day.
Great, no lemon water in sight.
Okay guys, we just got back from our walk. I'm gonna get some breakfast ready. First, I wanna show you guys what my macro targets are gonna be for today. I've got 225 grams of protein, 75 grams of fat, and 300 grams of carbs. And that will give me an approximate caloric target of 2,800 calories per day.
So no human requires 225 grams of protein a day. Jeff is simply choosing to eat this way because he likes the way it makes him look. There is very little health benefits of eating this way, but many known risks. Extra and excessive protein is not efficiently used in the body, and it may impose metabolic burdens on the bones, kidneys, and liver. Moreover, high protein, high meat diets are associated with increased risk of certain cancers, and also increased risk of heart disease due to increased intakes of saturated fats. Just for the search term excessive protein intake, there are over 5,000 articles discussing the evidence and literature surrounding the dangers and harm associated with excessive protein intake. Slightly higher protein intakes do appear to benefit the elderly due to natural muscle wastage, etc. But aside from that, Jeff will find zero evidence anywhere that consuming 225 grams of protein a day is healthy or even necessary.
A couple months ago, I was more around the 2,600 calorie range. But since then, I've gradually increased that number up. And over the next 3 or 4 months, I'm gonna try to increase that number further to somewhere around 3,200, maybe 3,400 or more calories per day while maintaining the amount of fat that I have on me. So my goal is to build as much lean mass as possible while minimizing the amount of fat mass that I gain.
Again, that is fine and absolutely Jeff's choice to consume all of those calories and protein that he wants on a daily basis. But he does need to declare that his dietary patterns and opinions are not supported by the vast majority of health organizations around the world.
Now, some people will note that that protein figure is really high for my body weight. I'm only 163 pounds. However, I do think it's better to go too high on protein than too low, especially when your goal is recomposition.
Again, it's his opinion based on having zero medical or nutritional qualifications. His background is an undergraduate in biochemistry. But let's say hypothetically he is right regarding body composition. Then by all means follow this advice to get big and shredded like Jeff. But be under no illusion that this type of approach increases your risk sizably for many of our chronic leading killers. And just to reiterate, Jeff's opinions are not supported by the scientific literature.
There's at least 4 reasons for that. The first is that extremely high protein intakes have been shown to improve body composition in the literature, even as high as 3.4 grams per kilogram. So that's just over 1.5 grams per pound, which is super high for protein intake. Also, protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It also has a higher thermic effect than carbs or fats. And also, I think you have nothing to lose by going higher on protein. And very high protein intakes have been repeatedly shown in the scientific literature to be safe for bone health, the kidneys, and the liver. So I think a simple cost-benefit analysis is gonna show you that it'd be better to go too high than too low.
This clip here just shows how little Jeff understands how scientific evidence works. Flashing up isolated studies in support of your own opinion has no basis. You have to look at the entirety and totality of the evidence. This includes the balance of evidence across systematic reviews, randomized controlled trials, cohort studies, case studies, and everything in between, and this is how you assess the literature. Flashing a few random PubMed studies on screen and suggesting protein is more satiating is absurd. What does that even mean? More satiating than what?
All right, let's get breakfast. So for breakfast, just gonna be doing the usual here. I'm gonna do some scrambled eggs, some turkey bacon.
Bacon is good for me.
Some goat cheese on the eggs, kiwi, of course, do that every morning, and what else? Oh, and some hash browns, or, well, potato patties, technically. Oh yeah. I don't know about you, that looks like a good breakfast to me.
Not so much processed refined meats, processed refined carbs, but at least we had the kiwi.
People always give me a hard time for this breakfast. They're like, why are you eating those foods? Why the hash browns? And you know, most of it, for this meal, most of it just comes down to, it's a high protein meal. It's relatively low carb, which I like to do because I like to partition my carbs more around the workout and later in the day when my appetite picks up. And other than that, it's just an enjoyable breakfast with foods that I like.
Sounds like absolute sound logic to me, that.
So guys, I'm gonna put the macros for this meal up here on the screen. You guys can pause if you wanna check it out. And also I'll have 2 fish oil capsules and 3, well, it's actually just 1 serving of a multivitamin. I do try to have 1 or 2 servings of fatty fish per week, but I don't always follow through on that. So I just take 2 of these just to be safe. And I think of a multivitamin kind of as like a nutritional insurance. I think you should always try to max out your whole food options first. And if you do a good job with that, you probably don't need a multivitamin. I like a quote from Alan Aragon. He says, "A poor diet with a multivitamin is still a poor diet."
I'm not sure where Jeff is only getting 491 calories from. So 6 egg yolks for scrambled eggs is around 282 calories. 2 slices of turkey bacon is around 103 calories. The 4 hash brown pieces are around 160 calories. And he also had 52 calories of goat's cheese. So that comes to 640 calories, and that is not including the large ass dollop of sauce on the plate, so that is at least another 50 calories. So unless he never ate all of that food on the plate, then there is no way that plate of food is 491 calories. It is much closer to 700 calories. I certainly do agree with Jeff here though in relation to the supplements. A poor diet with a multivitamin is still a poor diet.
Alright, so guys, for the pre-workout meal, I've got a chicken sandwich here. I've got some fresh chicken breast, some shredded cheese, mayo, some spinach, and a little bit of mustard on some Ancient Grains bread, which is my favorite bread. And then I've also got 100 grams of blueberries over here, and I'm gonna have a banana to go along with that.
Can you actually imagine living in a world where you have to measure 100 grams of blueberries, otherwise they might mess up your life? Anyway, it's time for Jeff to eat a post-workout meal, so let's see what he rustles up.
So anyway, with all that said, we're gonna get a meal ready over here. So this is kind of like a quick and easy snack, more or less. Like I said, I don't have like my biggest meal post-workout, but I do like to have something. I'll leave this out. So yeah, that should be 1 serving of oats. This is select protein for oats. Now, you don't need to use this kind of protein powder, but I like it because it does mix really well. And it's also a whey casein blend. I actually like blended proteins post-workout. According to one of my favorite books on nutrition of all time, The Protein Book by Lyle McDonald, combining casein and whey post-workout may have a benefit compared to consuming either one in isolation.
Look, weighing every little portion of food is just very weird to me. If this was someone not involved in bodybuilding, then many people would just say this is disordered eating. Trying to manipulate every little macronutrient is something that I can't get my head around, but I would love to know your thoughts, so let me know in the comments below.
So I'll stick this in the microwave for a minute. So anyway, here are the total macros for that meal. We've got 34 grams of protein, 4 grams of fat, and 25 grams of carbs. And even though I think a lot of people make a big deal out of carbs in the post-workout period, I think they're more important pre-workout, where they're actually gonna fuel training. And where my appetite is a little lower after training, I tend to, like I said earlier, partition more of my carbs toward later meals in the day. It's just for simple adherence purposes, I'll have a little bit lower carb intake post-workout.
There is not really much you can say here. It's simply eating for the sake of eating. It has nothing to do with health, gut health, or even heart health. It's simply based on making Jeff look a certain way. And hey, this is not me bashing Jeff. Great if he enjoys living this way.
All right guys, it's been a couple hours since my post-workout snack, so I'm gonna have another meal. So it's kind of interesting because now my appetite is really starting to pick up, that it's later in the day. This is always when I get the hungriest, is around like between 6 to 10 p.m.
So Jeff started eating at 10 in the morning, and as he said just there, between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. is where his appetite really starts cranking up. And this is really not that great.
So I'm gonna have a huge meal right now. So this is a big Tupperware full of chili that my mom made for me. So what my mom will do is she'll cook for me I'm pretty lucky in this sense. Either salmon or spaghetti or chili, like 3 or 4 nights a week, and just give that to me in Tupperware with the macros. You know what I'm saying? With the macros. So basically it just makes it really easy for me to track. So
I wonder if Jeff has heard of the body's circadian rhythm or time-restricted feeding. Eating this meal at 6 p.m. is fine, but if he is continuously eating after this until 9, 10 or even 11 at night, then this really isn't great for the body's metabolic functions. Insulin, melatonin and many other metabolic processes will be working out of kilter. If you have not heard of time-restricted feeding or circadian rhythms, then please check out one of the pioneers in this field, Professor Sachin Panda. He has demonstrated repeatedly in clinical trials that what time you are eating from and to is equally as important as what you are eating. Eating consistently beyond an 8-hour window and later on into the evening is really not great for the body.
It needs to de-thaw a little bit, but you can see we got some chickpeas in here, we got some kidney beans, ground turkey, some peppers, garlic in there. It's just a super healthy meal. Probably my most healthy meal of the day. Super high fiber, and I like to have fiber later at night. 1, gonna help me feel more satiated, and 2, is gonna slow the rate of digestion a little bit. So I tend to have a bit of a longer overnight fast. Like it'll usually be maybe 10 or 12 hours that I go without eating. So I try to cram a lot of fiber in, eat slower digesting sources of protein later in the day. So anyway, gonna heat this up again and enjoy.
Look, I get it. Jeff is a pro-natural bodybuilder and he is striving to be very good at something, and I admire that dedication. But for me, I can't fathom that absolute clinical way of eating that he has to endure day in, day out. I could almost understand eating a certain way to derive health benefits from it, but eating the way that Jeff is eating is anything but. It's good to see some good plant-based sources of protein. The rest of the day, the protein has predominantly been derived from animal sources and also protein powders. It's good to see that Jeff also acknowledges the importance of fibre, yet despite that and eating around 2,000 calories so far, he is probably at only around 24 grams, which is quite low considering the amount of food that Jeff has already consumed.
Do a little taste test. Oh yeah, I also added about 15 grams of shredded cheese on top. I think that makes it taste so much better.
Because we haven't already overconsumed saturated fats and proteins, so let's just add in another 15 grams.
After this, I think I'm gonna go play a bit of basketball. I've been playing in like a little men's league here in Kelowna, so I'm gonna go shoot some hoops. This is a huge meal, so I tried to time it about like an hour before I'd go play. So yeah, I'm gonna down this, do a bit of work, and then go shoot some hoops. So I'll put the macros for the meal up here on the screen if you guys are interested in that. Super high protein and also very high fiber meal. And I'll check in with you guys for my last meal before I go to bed.
I look forward to it, Jeff.
Just got back from basketball. For whatever reason, when I run full court basketball, it absolutely kills me. So I'm feeling so tired right now. I ran for, well, it's 9:45 now, so was it a couple hours?
Eating a meal at 10 p.m. at night is not great for the metabolism and body, particularly when you have started the body's metabolic circadian rhythms at 10 a.m. in the morning. But let's see what Jeff is going to eat.
So we got one more meal to go toward the end of the day here now. So this is gonna be our last meal. I was gonna point out to you guys, I've been reading through this thesis, I showed it earlier, from Jorn, and another one of his main points in the book, he's actually written about this for a while, but he's kind of big on pre-sleep being a potentially important feeding window. So he says here, an important and missed opportunity to consume a high protein meal in well-trained athletes is before going to bed. And I do think it's an underrated time of day because it's when you're gonna go the longest without eating again. So you're basically at the greatest risk of catabolism when you're fasting.
This may be true for building and repairing muscles and getting ripped, but this type of eating pattern is not conducive for metabolic health, and the leading scientists in the world, such as Sachin Panda, have demonstrated this time and time again. It's one of the main reasons why people who work night shifts, where their circadian rhythms and eating patterns are outside of the body's design, have much higher risks of premature death. Now this is at the extreme end, and obviously Jeff is not working night shifts, but still eating this late at night will not be great for his body longer term. And particularly when he is eating the type of foods that he is eating throughout the day.
We are gonna go with cottage cheese. So cottage cheese is a very slow digesting protein, primarily from casein. Basically forms a clump in your stomach, and then it takes time for those amino acids to be digested and absorbed.
Sounds delightful.
So we're gonna go with some of that, and I've been eating that with some of these wheat thins over here. So get a few of these crackers, dip it in the cottage cheese. Don't knock it until you tried it, it's actually really good. Oh, and can't forget, good old kale salad with some turkey breast. Turkey on the salad, and I like to put a little bit of cheese on this meal too. Bam.
It's good to see some vegetables in there in the form of kale, but the rest of it is just overly processed and refined in nature.
I actually love cottage cheese. This is a treat. I'm serious. It's so good for me. I love it, bro. Rashawn's face is just like I seriously love it. Solid serving. Same as the chili, I'll add a little bit of cheese on top. I typically would just eat these as a snack when I'm watching TV. So lately I've been rewatching the Breaking Bad series, and I just started season 5, and I'm convinced that Breaking Bad is the greatest show of all time.
Okay, so Jeff's taste in food kind of sucks, but his taste in TV shows is slightly better.
So I'm gonna put the macros for this meal up here on the screen. We got 40 grams of protein, 23 grams of fat, and 72 grams of carbs for 630 calories. So I'm gonna enjoy this last meal. I'm gonna flick on an episode of Breaking Bad over here. If you guys are interested in checking out the new nutrition guide, make sure you hit up that pre-sale link at the first link in the description box down below. Also, I did wanna say that in this video, I did focus on some of the finer details of nutrition.
Look, I'll stop it there. Eat this way and buy Jeff's book if you want to look like Jeff. But please don't confuse this eating pattern as being healthy. And with that in mind, let's see how Jeff's day of eating stacked up. So in terms of calories, Jeff calculated his calories for the day at around 2,712. My calculations come in at around 2,732 based upon what I saw on screen. So those two numbers are very similar. In terms of fibre, this calculation on screen is a little out, and I think that Jeff was there or thereabouts for the minimum recommendations for fibre intake. But given the amount of calories that Jeff consumed, I would say that this is fairly low. In terms of lipids, Jeff was heavy in inflammatory omega-6s compared to omega-3s, and in terms of saturated fat, he is maybe 10 to 15 grams over the current recommendations for saturated fat intake. His protein intake was around 220 to 240 grams, and in terms of the amino acids, he is around 300 to 500% for each of the essential amino acid requirements, which obviously, given the known risk over excessive protein intake, is putting Jeff's health at risk over the longer term. And as you would expect with the amount of food that Jeff ate, he was there or thereabouts for most of the key vitamins and minerals. The only exception to this was vitamin E, where I believe that he only hit around 56% of his daily requirement. But as always, this is an isolated day of eating, so it doesn't really tell us anything about his vitamin E status. So just in summary, I would say that Jeff is eating a high-calorie standard American diet to look a certain way. The way that he is eating is not conducive for longer-term health, and in this day of eating, there were a lot of processed refined foods. Jeff did hit most of his nutrients, but given the fact that he ate upwards of 2,800 calories, then this is really no big surprise. Anyhow, that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.